Welcome into House of Wrestling, everybody. It's me, Nick Hausman. Come on in here, take your shoes off, hat off, put them over on the living room counter here, and come on in because we have sitting by the fireplace today somebody that the pro wrestling world just can't seem to stop talking about. The fans are all chanting about him. You may have known him in WWE as Meat, but it is right now here today that we are talking with Dr. Shawn Stasiak. Dr. Shawn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here today.
Hey, Nick, thanks for having me.
Man, Dr. Shawn Stasiak. Is it weird for me to I don't know. I'm really impressed by that. The last time I think a lot of people saw you, you were just oiled up and now you're a doctor, man. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I tell a lot of my patients I used to, I was half naked wearing a pair of underwear and go-go boots, pretend fighting with other men and women to pay my bills. So they get a kick out of that. And I also show them my x-rays and say, you ask if pro wrestling's fake, right? Well, let me show you how fake it is. I'll show you my x-rays and show you some of the damage I did to my spine. But nonetheless, yeah, no, it's not weird for me now. It's ironic you say that because I feel like I'm kind of in on both sides of the fence, meaning pro wrestling to me, I've been away for quite a while now, and I watch old footage here and there. I guess the social media, the digital world we live in is what keeps us, guys like myself that have been gone for so long, somewhat relevant, I guess, right? You got the digital signal, you got the Peacock. I'm on in the live. I mean, I've got kids that come up half my age saying, "Hey, you're Shawn Stasiak. How old are you?" "I'm 20 or 22. "How do you even know about me?" And they're like, "Well, it's from the WB network or Peacock, right?" So it's weird because I look, it's so familiar to me when I watch back my whole footage, which I cringe most of the time. Like, oh my God, I wish I could add that back again. But it's so foreign to me, but yet so familiar. It's really weird. It's like, I did that. That's me, And then with chiropractic, I've been doing this for 17 years now, serving my Dallas-Fort Worth community. I've just kind of fallen into that role, I guess. I've always been someone of service and providing, better quality of life for people, installing a more vibrant, enchanting life for people. And that's very rewarding and fulfilling. So now I'm breaking into speaking and wellness life coaching among some other entertainment projects. But that's me. I wear a lot of different hats, man. No pun intended. You see the Dallas Stars.
I'm about to say you have a hat on right now. I don't know how many underneath are underneath that one hat.
I've got a couple here. I got the Los Angeles Angels. I got another Dallas Stars cap.
Physically, a man with physically many hats. I love it.
Many hats, man. More ways than one.
Well, it's crazy here. You 17 years away from pro wrestling because obviously you're a generational talent. Your father was WWE Hall of Famer and WWF champion Stan Stasiak. Yep. By the way, very interesting timing here with us meeting up and chatting because tomorrow will be the first day in more than 40 years that WWE will no longer be owned by the McMahons. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild to think about?
That's starting on Wednesday?
Yeah, no, Tuesday, tomorrow.
As
we're recording this on Monday, September 11th. Yeah, we are about 8 hours away from the merger between WWE and UFC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a significant date, but today obviously is a very significant date. What was it, 22 years ago? I can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
But what's significant when you tie that into wrestling is that I was part of a very, very special night and moment when we were the very first, when I was with WWE, when that happened, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. We were in Houston, Texas, and we were about to have, I think it was a Raw. I believe it was a Raw.
It was a Smackdown, I believe.
Oh, Smackdown. You're right. It was a Smackdown taping, I think, but we prolonged it to like a Thursday. Because all the airports shut down. Everything was shut down. Everything was in chaos. No one knew if we were coming or going. It was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. But, Vince McMahon, said to heck with it. We're going to go ahead and put on a show for the fans, and we're going to drown out some of this, grief and depression. I mean, we were all feeling it, right? So to be part of that, it was I knew it was special when I was there, 22 years ago. But when I look back, and they've even done a documentary or little mini documentary on Peacock about that night, and man, it brought me to tears. And I was just very proud that, because life's about experiences, about memories, about moments, right? And that was just a really special moment that I'm very proud to be part of that, that's a significant, it's September 11th today, and today's the anniversary. So
Yeah.
I thought that was worth mentioning.
No, 100%. And that happened during your second run back with WWF.
That was during my second run.
Man, that is what a crazy experience that had to be, like, grieving at the same time. I'm from Texas. I'm from Houston, Texas, by the way.
Okay.
So I remember that show very, very. I wasn't there, but I remember very, very vividly. So
yeah. And I got to work with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, that night. I was the Wile E. Coyote of the WWE at the time. The laughing stock and comical relief. It was just fun that I got to rub shoulders with Rock a little bit. I wish I would have had an opportunity to actually work a real program and, develop, but the rest is history. It is what it is. But it was bittersweet. You're on one end, you're representing, freedom and America, really, very patriotic night, but it was depressing and sad. And again, lots of fear, anxiety going on. But to work with Dwayne was really special for me too. It was really, I wish we had more time or more of an opportunity of working together. But just to have that moment, I was glad to be part of it. It was a stupid, goofy character, but at least it made people laugh and it put smiles on faces and it eased up some of the tension that we all felt. So I was happy to be part of that aspect.
Man. Well, here, we'll revisit this. Let's take a step back here, man, because the reason that I set up this interview, the reason that you and I got put together, Dr. Shawn Stasiak, is because I was sitting at AEW All Out here in Chicago, and I watched Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs throw down in this Haus fight, and everybody starts chanting meat, right? And then this had happened before with Big E, where he had talked about big meaty men slapping meat. And I was like, man, I started thinking about you specifically. Then I see you leaning in on social media, tagging Tony Khan, making jokes about it. And I'm like, man, I got to talk to Dr. Shawn Stasiak. I got to talk to Meat. I got to go to the source. So tell me real quickly, like, what do you think of this meat craze? I know you're kind of having fun with it, but what do you think about this kind of moment that's going on for these guys?
Well, it's amazing how in professional wrestling, how things just happen from left field. Some of the best and most successful and fun gimmicks or storylines are just stumbled upon. I don't want to say by coincidence, because everything happens for a reason, but just by it just happens, right? It just happens by accident, I guess, to some degree. It just no thought into it, and before you know it, this crowd's chanting meat. And I don't know if it's a Chicago thing. I mean, you had to educate me on it because you called. I said, "What?" Now here's the thing. Let me explain the story. What happened here? So,
okay,
I'm on my way to the gym, right? And I'm sitting in my car and I'm going through my phone and responding to messages, emails, and stuff. And I see I'm getting tagged with all this meat stuff. This meat. I'm like, and honestly, back when I played that character, because I am the original Meat. Okay, let's just get that. Make that an official statement. I am originally the original Meat, right? Character. And back then, I'm just backing up here. Let me rewind a little bit to give you a little background story on my thoughts on this. So, I anticipated being a pro wrestler for many years as a young man. As you can imagine, my dad, Stan the Man Stasiak, fifth wrestler in the history of the company, of WWE, or back then the WWF, to become champion, right? So, I got memories of Andre the Giant, in my living room, drinking beer with my dad till 5 a.m. I mean, think about a 5-year-old little boy walking down the stairs to hearing these big giant laughs. And there's a live giant in your living room. So no wonder I'm so traumatized, right? But point being is that, I anticipated for many years that I would take after my dad and have a shot at professional wrestling and namely the WWE. And I'll just say this to you. I never wanted to work for any other promotion than WWE. I grew up around that. My dad has so much history and lineage there. And so, for other reasons or another, politically, whatever, I ended up going to WCW for a while, had great success there, came back to WB for a second tenure. But, with my first tenure there, I did not anticipate, that I would represent a one word name character in the name of Meat, of all things. So when I first received that, I was very disappointed. You know,
Yeah.
I was really disappointed. I was disheartened, but it was the direction that the company was going, being edgier, and I was bummed out about it, but I was happy at the same time that I finally got to make my break in the business at that level.
Time out. I want to start it real quick. Can you take us back to like who pitched you the meat character? How was this character pitched to you, Dr. Shawn?
From what I can remember, I mean, it's been since 1999, and ironically, all these stories tie in. But I had anticipated to make my WWE debut for 6-7 weeks. They'd fly me to TV, right? Because I was doing dark matches. I worked with Kurt Angle quite a bit.
Yeah.
We traveled together. We had we had great matches that were never televised, but you were both green back then, of course, you know. But I mean, we just had good chemistry, and of course, amateur backgrounds. And I respected Kurt for all his accolades and whatnot. But I had been going to TVs, you know, for a while there and say, hey, you're gonna, you know, make your debut. And then at last minute, the way that business is, okay, no, we're gonna do it next week. So then the next week would come, and it just kept going on where they just kept postponing my debut. And I remember we were in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they said, you're gonna make your debut finally tonight. And I was very nervous, as you can imagine. And, you know, a big part of me being there and being part of the whole thing was my dad, you know, his influence on me. And my dad had passed, you know, shortly prior to that, less than a couple years prior, 1997. But I'm in the crowd. I'm looking around, you know, they put me by a curtain behind the scenes, and I'm looking out and I'm seeing, you know, however many thousands of people there were. I could hear my dad saying to me, Shawn, I'm with you. I could feel his spirit. I could feel him, and I could hear his voice saying, do your thing. You've anticipated this your whole life. I'm always with you. I just, you know, I just felt his presence, man, and goosebumps. And so I went in there, did my thing, you know, and that is what officially introduced the character Meat. I beat up Tiger Ali Singh, walked out with the girls, the PMS girls, Terry Runnels and Jacqueline Moore. And I finally did it. I made my debut. I finally got that out of the way, and I'm in my extended stay hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, and all my friends are, you know, they're calling, hey, congratulations, we saw you, that was great, we knew you would do this, and, you know, just all the support and love that I was getting, right? And then I laid back on my bed, and I was just thinking, man, if I'm ever asked that question, when did you make your official WWE debut? And I backtracked because it was a Heat segment, and it was recorded, a show called Heat back in the day. And I backtracked on the calendar. I went, oh my God, I said, and I felt my dad's spirit, man, so strong, you know? It was April 13th, 1999. It was my dad's birthday.
Wow.
So it's weird. It's bittersweet because I felt it, you know, he wasn't there physically, but I felt his spirit. I wasn't crazy about this character Meat, but I had, you know, veterans say, listen, Shawn, take the character. It's the direction the company's going. Vince will have plans for you. You're a good hand. You're going to be with this company a long time. Take the character. Just get your feet wet. You know, it's like an actor. Take a role in a film or a you know, a sitcom, whatever, and just play it to the best of your knowledge. I didn't know what Meat was back then. I didn't know if I was coming or going. You know, I was so green. I was so nervous. I was just trying to find.
Do you think that WWE really knew what Meat was, other than this guy who has lots of sex with these women? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
What a horrible gimmick, right?
Oh, awful.
Yeah. I had so much sympathy from people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't think they did. I believe where that came from, though. To answer your question, to fast forward, you know, I think Ed Ferrara, his dad was on the softball team, and apparently they called him Meat for whatever reason. But that's how I learned that came about. So that came from, like, I think Russo, Ferrara, but of course Vince McMahon at the time, being the head of WWE, would have had to approve that, whatever. I really don't know, Nick, to answer your question, but all I know is that I was stuck with this Meat character for about a year. And I'll be honest, when I reflected back on that, like many years later, all these years of my adult life, you know, as a Dr. Shawn, a chiropractor, and, you know, speaking and, you know, living out in the corporate world, I always thought it was the cheesiest, dumbest character. And I really didn't know, you know, what I was really doing. I was just experimenting, learning as I went along, learning on the job, so to speak. Had all the basic mechanics, you know, the look, the body, the name. But then again, they took the Stasiak name and placed me with this character Meat.
Yeah.
But you know, when I look at it now, today in 2023. And then of course, just fast forward into this whole meat craze thing. It is a funny name. It is fun. And look, I always say this, I'm always open, look, I'm 53 years old. Let's face it, it's a young man's game, but I've stayed in shape, and I think I've kind of kept myself on the shelf in the sense of maintained some integrity of my health and, my fitness and whatnot. And of course, just maturing and growing as we should, as we go through adult life. Right. I thought, if I ever played a character called Meat, how would I play it now with what I know about the world, about that profession? Now that I've had experience, I think it would be really fun. And I think that you could go somewhere with it, to be honest. And I've always said for all these years, ironically enough, dumbest character, cheesy, hated it, got my start, whatever, right? But now that I've thought about it the last couple of days, I thought, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities, right? Because look, I don't know if this things would go anywhere. We've talked about this, Nick, off air, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not attached to any outcome, but I will say this. I'm open to a good business opportunity. And I think there's a lot of creative ways and direction you can go with this thing, and it would make sense, and it would be fun. I'm not looking to get back in the ring full time. Do I have a little bit of fire in the belly? Do I have a little bit in the basement? You're damn right I do.
Wow.
So I'm making that statement, but I'm not looking to get back full time, again, young man's game. But I think that there could be an opportunity with something like this. And even if take me out of the equation, subjectively speaking, there could be a very interesting opportunity. And I think the fans would have to clamor for bringing that original, who's that original Meat guy back? Oh,
yeah,
Meat. Right.
Yeah.
Meat. Yeah. So I don't know what that looks like, but I think so. Anyway, I'm going to the gym last week, right? I'm in the parking lot. I'm seeing Meat this. I mean, what's this Meat thing, right? I'm looking on this. I'm getting looped into this Meat. I said, I can't escape that word, Nick. I go to the grocery store and I see freshly cut meats, and I run the opposite direction. I can't get away from. I'm haunted by Meat, and here it is, 23, 24 years later, and I'm getting looped back into the whole Meat gimmick, craze, theme, whatever. And so I thought, okay, I did a little research, saw the article. I went, okay, slapping Meat, two guys, Hobbs and Miro are chopping. They're big, beefy, meaty men, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, and the crowds are shit. And then the T-shirt comes out, and this is all AEW stuff. And I'm going, wow. I said, I'm going to have some fun with this. So I thought, you know what? Bicep pose, take a picture, tweet it to Tony Khan, have fun with it. And so I did. And it seemed like it picked up a little bit of traction. And here we are talking. You called me the next day.
Hey, pro wrestling fans love fun things, right? They love fun things. They love nostalgia. They love underdog stories. I think you check a lot of boxes right now, and especially since people haven't really got to see a whole lot of you, especially in the recent history. I don't know. Seems like a fun idea to me, Shawn. Dr. Shawn. Sorry, I don't want to call you Shawn. You're a doctor. I don't want to diminish you.
Who knows? Maybe I'll be Dr. Meat.
Oh, Dr. Meat. That's a good one. I like Dr. Meat. Real quick, just kind of going back to your time working as Meat. Obviously, you were paired with Terry and Jackie, and both, kind of legends in their own right. I mean, especially Jackie broke a lot of barriers, especially for women of color.
Sure.
What was it like for you? I mean, I know it was a real silly gimmick and everything, but what was it like for you to work with them, as a kind of group? Yeah.
Yeah. I've been asked that quite a few times in recent interviews. Jackie was a little bit more, she was always quiet. She's, I knew she was a veteran. She was well respected. I mean, she looked great, and she was a little tiny petite thing, but she was yoked, man. And she was a badass,
Yeah.
And she was known to work what we call stiff, in the ring. But anyway, point being is, Terry, however, now she had been in the business for a while. She had been, of course, she was married to Dustin at the time, Dustin Rhodes. And of course, the legendary Rhodes family. I mean, that trickles in, that nostalgia. So she was around that family, and she knew the business, and I think more backstage, how to conduct yourself and just little nuances and things that I would pick up on and learn from her. I felt that I learned from her, actually, just more backstage etiquette and just maybe some little political things here and there. And she comforted me in the sense that I felt, a little more confident having her around, because, and regardless of gender, but if someone who's experienced is more or less a manager, but it's someone that kind of, I think I leaned on a little bit, breaking into the business, with that character. So I don't know if that makes sense, but she was more than just standing there playing her role, with interacting with meat, right? What you saw on screen. She was kind of seemed like almost like a sister figure or something that had wisdom, that I was just young, even though my dad was Stan Stasiak. Yeah. I got started late in the business. So there's things about the business that people don't realize. What you see on TV is a very, very small percentage of what goes on and what it entails to make it to that level, and then also stay there and stay as long as some, people do. So that was my experience with Terry. I always got along with her. We had great chemistry working together. She was fun to be around,
How about Vince? As we're talking about how tomorrow will be, I guess today's his last day running the company. What was your relationship like with him? How was he as a boss?
I get that question all the time. Is Vince an a-hole? Is he this? Is he that? And to be honest with you, I always judge every relationship on my personal relationship with them. I have to say, look, I don't want to point fingers here or sound bitter by any means, but I think this is worth mentioning, and I'll tie that into Vince. I could have every reason in the world to be bitter and to point fingers and say, never gave me my opportunity, a real opportunity. Yeah, look, I made mistakes. I see where perception is reality. And I was just a young man back then, just trying to make my father proud, so to speak. I just lost him not too long prior to me coming aboard, WWE, the training camps, the Funking Dojo camps, and the headquarters of Stamford, Connecticut, where WWE was, with Tom Pritchard and Dory Funk Jr. were my trainers. I was kind of on a fast track to get me to a level that they could call me up to be on the main roster.
Yeah.
And, I had interactions with Vince, when I was at the headquarters, and he'd work out. It's his gym, it's his building, right? And we would have, some conversations. But I think, it's funny because you've heard this from other wrestlers too. Bret Hart comes to mind, and he's got this effect on other people. Ultimate Warrior, for instance. But something about Vince, I felt a comfort, because he was like a bit of, like, I don't want to sound weird, but a bit of a father figure, in the sense that I think for me at that time, I think I was still grieving that I lost my dad. Yeah. And here I was on my own. I don't have really much family members around, I'm kind of a lone wolf. And I think I was looking to ultimately connect. So I was looking at the WWE as not just to fulfill a long time, I'd say teenage dream, right? But I think I was looking forward to fulfill a family void that I was having. And so when I saw Vince, I know it's pretty deep, right? But
this is great reflection. You are obviously, you've thought about this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I love being transparent. That's part of my speaking. It's, my theme is wrestling with fear. We're all wrestling with something, but I've wrestled. The biggest opponent I've ever had is me, and most of our hardest, toughest opponents are ourselves, that we wrestle with, right? So that's why when things came to an end with that company on two different occasions, one was just a stupid, like the tape recorder incident. I'm sure you heard that. That was.
You recorded like a heated conversation between Davey Boy Smith.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even that. And I don't mean to cut you off, Nick, but there's so many stories and fabrications, and I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. Hey, how like a story can, like a little piece like this, and it just gets blown completely out of proportion. I've heard I was paranoid. I'm recording people's conversations in locker rooms. I mean, I even heard Jim Cornette recently. I like Jim Cornette. I think he's I know he's polarizing. I think he's funny. He's entertaining. I may not agree with everything that he says, but my point is that even recently he made a comment about it. I've seen Jim Ross talk about it, interviews Eric Bischoff, and Road Dogg even. It hurts to hear it because my intention, and people that know me and know the situation, there was absolutely no wrongful intent or harm whatsoever, honest to God. And I've talked about this a million times on interviews, but bottom line is, it was a dumb thing to do. It was stupid, right? It was just a rib that I played on a couple of guys in the car. They were just arguing and bickering. We're on a long road trip, and I was just going to play it back for them and say, this is how you guys sounded, like a couple of bitches, complaining on the road. And of course, it got intercepted because where I went wrong is I wasn't honest about it when I was approached. And I knew right then and there, I said, okay, these guys don't know me. That was kind of dumbass. Like, that rib's not going to work now. And the reason why I even had this thing with me is because it was encouraged by Dory and Tom, and that were training me. Even my dad. I mean, my dad got me my first tape recorder. I was always doing imitations, rehearsing characters, always, you're in the car, you're traveling a lot. So work on your craft, work on your promos, practice your craft. And so that's why I even had the damn thing. It was like a cassette, old school cassette, style. So anyway, where I'm going with all this is that I've heard so many different fabricated stories about it. I wasn't recording conversations in the locker room. I wasn't working for Hard Copy. I wasn't working for WCW. Look, it was just those guys in the car, a rib, and it went wrong, and it never became a rib or a joke. I just simply threw it back in my bag. The recorder, and even the next following week, I believe it was, I had it. I brought my bag with me. I mean, God, if I was trying to hide or keep something discreet, why would I carry the evidence around with me if that was the case, right? Who would do that? How stupid would that be? And so they went through my bag and heard voices on there, and it made me look really bad, and rightfully so. I mean, I would have thought the same thing too. I would have been skeptical. Who's this? What's going on, man? Like, I wouldn't have. It was just really a bad look, and it just did not serve me well. And honestly, Nick, I don't think I ever recovered from that. My career, I could never seem to get a fair shake. When I came back the second tenure with WWE, I couldn't seem to get. I felt that
I watched videos of you like running into walls and tripping over stuff, and like you were not booked in a strong way, I would say, after your WCW run.
Absolutely not. I think I was just the cost of doing business. I was fed to make guys like Brock Lesnar's of the world when he was coming up to look good, and just, it was very frustrating and discouraging. It's like, then why did you even buy my contract from WCW to bring me back? It was just to feed these guys. I think ultimately, I don't think there really was a real plan, or at least there was people in Vince's ear. I don't know. I don't even have an answer, and it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
But the point being is that I was never able to, and I was willing to do everything, keep myself in shape and work on my craft. And the Planet Stasiak character was actually my idea, but that got complete.
Talk to me about that, because you told me off the air that you had like more that you wanted to do with Planet Stasiak.
Oh yeah, I mean the idea. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, and the way he presented Riddler and Batman, I just love the characteristics and mannerisms, and I thought, man, that would be so cool to create, a character like he's from a different world, and he's crazy and kind of out there. He's comical, he's funny, but he needs to be taken serious too, because he's still badass enough to be a WB champion. That's how I envisioned this, and those were my goals set to work towards, right? But we could never get on the same page. I just never got a fair shake with that character. They just buried it, and just even the entrance, everything. I had so many great marketing ideas in mind that I think it would have been a huge hit. In fact, when I was traveling with RVD at the time, and he'd say, Shawn, I saw more signs in the audience, bring me to Planet Stasiak, Planet Stasiak, population 3, there's a group of 3 people, their family, mom, dad, and son, or whatever. The point being is that every week it was growing, it was getting, it was catching on, right? But, in that business, it's so crazy. You never know. Perhaps they've got too much money invested in certain guys, and maybe someone starts coming up, and you wonder why. You see some of these organic buildups with people, like the guy LA Knight today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is really getting over with the crowd, but maybe, I don't know. Same with Cody Rhodes. I mean, Cody, he's on top and he's a main star there, but the whole, maybe there's a longer term plan, long game for him to fulfill the promise he made his dad, which is my storyline, by the way. I know I'm combining stories here, but that didn't come right with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and I think maybe it was built up. Maybe it was too predictable. Maybe they just swerved at the end. I don't know, but it seems like you could be coming up, and then all of a sudden you get the kibosh because maybe you're getting over, or the trajectory in which it's going is going in a way that we can't have this. So we got to spend time with these people here. We got more invested here, so we got to bring this guy down. I don't know. That's a theory, right? Yeah. Very possible. But so that was something. I had ideas for marketing with these blinking glasses and animated entrance, and kids would have loved it. It would have been, even kids, adults would have loved it. It would have been a hit, I'm telling you. But anyway, kind of bouncing around here, but just to my point though about Cody Rhodes, that is a storyline that is pretty much my storyline that I had pitched for many, many years. And I'm going to tie this into one other point to you, and then I'll shut up.
No. Yeah. Look, you're here to talk. Please.
You got me going, man. I got my fourth coffee of the day. It's just the way it goes. But anyway, man, Cody's storyline about his dad, about that famous shot of him holding up that title after, the WWE title when he beat superstar Billy Graham, God rest his soul, at Madison Square Garden. I think it was in 1976, in the 70s. But he won on a disqualification, so it didn't go down in the history books, right, as a champion, in which he's rightfully very well should have been, right? Dusty Rhodes was a legend. But he did not win the belt on a pinfall or submission. That's the rules of pro wrestling. At least they were, right? Rules can be changed and they can be broken. But the point is that he made a promise to his dad. Now, whether that's actually true or not, who cares? Does it matter? I mean, it's a story, right? Mm-hmm. So we got that iconic picture of him holding up that belt. And I teared up when I saw it because it brought me back to my dad. And my dad's passed, as well. He's probably up there with Dusty. They're probably trading heart punches and bionic elbows, most likely, maybe having a beer. I don't know. Dusty drank. My dad was a beer drinker. Him and Andre drank beer, okay? Point being is that my storyline that I had pitched for quite a few years and promoted and campaigned, it tied into campaigning for my father to be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame, 5th wrestler in the history of the company to become WB champion. Only held the belt for 9 days. But he always told me, he said, Shawn, I might, he was one of the shortest reign champions ever in history. But he always said, Shawn, he goes, even though it was only 9 days, besides you being born, he loved his son. Those were the happiest days of my life, the happiest 9 days of my life. And so who cares? It was 9 days. And back then, they wanted to get the belt off of Pedro and put it on Bruno Sammartino. They needed a transitional champion, a heel, a hot heel. My dad, Stan the Man, was a hot heel. They put it on him to make the transition because he had a lot of heat, right? Which he was just over as a heel. So I had campaigned this for many, many years. And, you can go on YouTube and check out my channel. It's called Shawn Stasiak's World. I know I need to get more active and create more content and be consistent, but it's there. You just search it on YouTube. It's Shawn Stasiak comeback story. And the whole premise is that, I've been away from the business for many years now. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, speaker, but I did promise my father, is the story, I promised my father that I would link our names in the history books and become the very first father-son duo to ever hold the WWE title, because it's never been done yet. To my knowledge, I don't think there's different belts now. I can't keep up. There's so many belts, but I don't think that anyone has that WWF belt. I think maybe Rey Mysterio might have been held that belt. So Dominic could be very close. Now I'm giving WWE ideas, right? But my point is, it had never been done, right? And that was my whole storyline, is to come out of retirement and to fulfill that promise I made my father. So when I saw Cody's thing with his dad, I went, wow. See, I got goosebumps right now, man.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's my storyline. And I thought, man, that would be so cool if he can fulfill this promise to his dad and win that title. But I say this with all due respect, but business is business, and I'm gonna kick some sand around. But Cody, if he does, Cody, and if you do win the WWE title, as much as I love your father, you will never have made history, because that history is still pending. Your dad was never officially the WWE champion. My father, Stan, was. There's something in that. And I thought, would have been kind of, like I told you earlier, Nick, sometimes I think, we all live virtually a lot of times, right? And I think, okay, realistically, do you really think that you could come out of retirement at 53 and do something like this? Because that's a big feat, man, right?
Yeah.
But I think with the right storyline and the right business, I'd be willing to take that chance and that shot. And I still believe to this very day that that's a piece of history. It's a storyline that's so real, so authentic. I'm an emotional guy. Cody's a very emotional guy, authentic. We're real. Man, there's something there, Nick. We talk about something there with the meat character, but this is deep, right? You didn't expect this, did you? This is
I hear it in your voice, Shawn. Like, I hear it in your voice, how like this, you're manifesting this right now.
Well, listen, I will just say this, and I'm learning to not be attached to the outcome. My heart, and in this business, people will say, don't show your emotions, kid. Don't put that over. No, I'm going to put this over because this broke my heart. I campaigned for my father to be in the WWE Hall of Fame for many years. Like I said, I had been retired since 2002. I've done some, I do some independence, handful of independence or whatever, a couple handfuls of independence since then. I get in the ring every once in a while to see how things are. We're going way over 30 minutes, by the way. We're at 37, but I'll just keep running.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, so anyway, listen. So I campaigned for him to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. And I thought when the time was right, when they were ready to do that, I figured he was worthy enough, because it wasn't just WWE that he had success, but wherever he went, back in my day when I grew up around my father, we traveled all over. I was yanked in and out of school districts my whole life, like a military brat, right? Because there was territories, the wrestling territories back in the day. That's where I met in Portland, Oregon. My dad was a huge sensation out in the Pacific Northwest. That's where I met Dwayne Johnson, a young 10-year-old Dwayne Johnson. I'm sorry, I was 10, he was 8. And we would play in the ring when we were kids. I remember he headbutted me, and I had a big goose egg on my head. We were out in the ring, playing in the ring like it was a playground. After the matches were over at the Portland Sports Arena, we met in what was called the Crow's Nest, where they did where the cameras were, where they interviewed the wrestlers. And my dad's in the car. He said, what's on your head there, Shawn? What? I said, oh, that's Dewey, Dad. Dewey gave me a headbutt. And I thought that was the funniest thing, Dewey being Dwayne Johnson. Yeah. So I knew Dwayne. My dad wrestled with his dad, his grandfather, High Chief Peter Maivia. So there's a lot of lineage and history there. And so I guess, where was I going with this? We're talking about I was talking about territories.
Yeah, moving around like a military brat. Yeah.
Right. And so, but anyway, my getting back to this whole Hall of Fame campaign thing is, I just figured when it was time to put him in, right, that they would call upon myself, his only son, at least that we know of. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm his only son. Okay. But we'll give Shawn the opportunity to induct his father, right, in the WWE Hall of Fame. I anticipated that they would do that, regardless of my thoughts or theories of why things didn't work out, or why I couldn't seem to get a political rub, or to really get some rocket boosters behind me and really move. And again, look, I made mistakes. I could see where I created some perceptions that weren't so positive, but hey, you live and learn, right? That's just part of life.
Yeah.
But point being is that when the time came, for a couple of years there, they would show this legacy wing, and they'd show these old timers and give them like video packages. And I would get nervous for a couple of years, because I'd say, oh man, don't tell me he's going to show up in this. And no disrespect to the legends and the legendary, the legends wing, but I'm like, come on, man. fifth wrestler in the history of the company become champion. Stan the Man Stasiak, top guy wherever he went, you know. They're going to just put him in a video. No way, they won't do that. So a couple years went by, and I was like, whew, because I was, the WWE Hall of Fame. I love that almost just as much, if not more than WrestleMania. Sometimes I just get choked up and emotional and love connecting with that. So it was in 2000, I think, 16. I'm in the car, and also my phone blows up, and I have all these tweets and stuff and notifications coming in, kind of like the other night with the meat thing.
Yeah,
and I'm seeing congratulations. They're finally putting your dad in. Stan the Man, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Oh, it's about time and all. And I go, you think I'd be ecstatic and happy, right? No, man, I knew right then and there what was going on. I live in Dallas, Texas. This WrestleMania Hall of Fame was in New Orleans. It's a very short flight away, right, from here. Because you're from Houston. So I'm like, this is a Thursday, I think, and this is going to happen Saturday, and no one's contacted me, no one's called me, no one's told me anything. And again, I'm not trying to paint a sap story here. I'm just telling it like it is, so you understand, how this was so distressing and really heart-wrenching for me, because I really took pride in that. People say it's not a real Hall of Fame, and Vince is something that made up in his mind. It's more of a television ratings thing, whatever. But still, it's the WWE Hall of Fame. It's once a year. It means something to me, and it means something to a lot of people. And it's about acknowledgement and about honoring these great men and women that laid down the groundwork before us, man. Right? And so I knew right away. I said they're gonna put him. So who's gonna induct him? I'm thinking, right? And right away, I called Vince McMahon. I dialed his number. I knew he wouldn't pick up. It's WrestleMania. I've had a few conversations with him over the years. Some okay, some not so great. And, anyway, I'll leave it at that. But point being is he wouldn't pick up. And I texted him. I said, please don't put my father into the Hall of Fame this year. Can we wait until next year when they're at MetLife Stadium? I think it was in New York, and that Eastern Seaboard area. I think it would just even be more fitting geographically, WWE's a worldwide thing, a world stage, but still I think would be a little more suiting to be in that area. It's like the Von Erichs, you're going to do it here in Texas, man. They're from Dallas, or Denton, whatever. They're Texans, like try to stick the theme of the area that these talent, I would think that's a rhyme and reason. Doesn't always work out that way, but it is, that's just my thought. But got a text later saying nothing personal, just a company decision. That's it. It was very, very vague. And boy, I text back. You can imagine I said a few things. Try to keep it classy, but it was tough, man. So yeah, I just wasn't invited. I think I'd be invited to the venue just to be in the building, just to show my respects, And all I would have asked for is just 5-10 minutes of. And I don't need Mr. T time. I don't need an hour up there, at the podium. I know he loves his mother and everything, and went on and on about it. But I mean, the point is that give me 5 minutes, tell a couple funny stories. It's an honor to accept this award. Thank you and good night. But it never came. So it broke my heart. It really did. It really, and since that time, it put such a bad taste in my mouth that that I just simply. I really have just lost all interest in that storyline or anything ever coming to fruition. But then I thought, man, I can compartmentalize things. I've learned to do that, for the right business and the right storyline. Am I open to it? Sure, I could be. But if you ever could pull from an archive to channel real emotion, to make something very, very believable and real, I definitely have an archive file. I don't let it consume me. I have released it. But it's there if I ever need to pull from it, as far as real raw emotion about how that affected me. And, again, it's just disheartening that they would go about just giving him a 20-second video package. And that was it, among a bunch of other video packages. That's what hurt. And it's hard not to think that it's got to be something well, don't take it personal. Well, how could you not?
Yeah.
You promoted this, campaigned this, they don't even invite you to it. They don't let you know that they're going to put your father into this thing. and then do it the way they did. It just was, to me, it was classless, and it was a slap in the face. So with AEW, I will just say that I think Tony Khan, I met him one time, really very nice guy, respectful. He's a big fan, you know.
Where did you meet him?
Backstage when they were here for a show of 2019.
Oh, okay.
Went backstage here in Garland. And I just feel like, you know, I don't know, maybe he has I'm not saying that Vince McMahon, like, you would ask me a question. I gave you a very long answer, Nick, by the way. You asked me what was Vince McMahon like, right?
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah.
So now you have a better understanding. So I will still say this.
Okay.
I can't call Vince an a-hole for sure. I can't. Look, he's a business guy. He's a visionary. He created an amazing spectacle with WWE. So huge respect to him for that. But on a personal level, I never really had a real personal relationship with him. And, you know, I'm just disheartened about the thing with my father with the Hall of Fame. So that's my answer to you, is that he's got great relationships with a lot of other people. So again, I always judge relationships based on your personal experience. But mine was, I didn't have a very close one. I would have liked to have had one. Again, like I said, I kind of saw him as a bit of a father figure when I first came in. Not that he was looking to adopt any more sons and Shane, you know, he's already got a son, but you know, it just would have been nice to create a relationship and you know,
you're far from the only wrestler to come along and say something about that with like about Vince, right? Obviously he's in that kind of boss role, but there are a lot of talents that come in and have talked about how Vince kind of assumes that father figure role, especially when you're on the road and you're away from your family and like the roster kind of becomes your family. You know,
absolutely.
Vince is very easy to kind of slot into that paternal role. I can totally understand that.
Yeah. So I have mixed emotions about Vince McMahon. Ultimately, you know, it's like, I think when he was maybe a few years ago, he played, his Mr. McMahon character, and just what he created, you know, is just amazing. And so I hats off to him on that. But yeah, it's just one of those things, man. I don't have any disdain. I don't hate the guy. I don't like wish bad, you know. It's just unfortunate. And I guess I have this underlying faith that what's meant to happen, karma, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, man, will take care and sort things out. And however, you know, but you know, he's got great relationships with people. He's a father and a grandfather, and you know, you have somebody else, and you know, he's the greatest guy in the world. So with Tony Khan, you know, he's new in the game, so to speak, but seems like I don't know, it seems like someone like that might be a little more open, and feel like he just shows a lot more respect, I guess. I don't know, to some of the nostalgia and throwbacks, I guess.
Yeah, well, and everybody's already chanting meat, Dr. Shawn.
I know, right?
They're already hungry for meat over in AEW world.
They can't get enough. They can't get enough meat, Nick. I'm telling you.
They cannot.
You know?
Oh my God. Dr. Shawn, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here today, man. It has been great, and I hope to have you back, man, because I feel like there's like all kinds of stuff that I left on the cutting room floor here today, but I just, you know, there's a lot to get into, man. Where can people go to find you, follow you, support you, all those other wonderful things?
Yeah, I mean, on social media, I'm going to be, you know, coming up with a wellness life coaching program soon. I do some speaking. It's going to start immersing myself more and more in corporate speaking, but just go to Dr. Shawn 008. So DrShawn 008, Twitter, Instagram, and then of course, Facebook is Shawn Stasiak _Stipich. I have a TikTok account, but I haven't done much on it yet. So I'm going to be growing my social media here very soon and staying consistent with that, as I'm now verging into the speaking, wellness, life coaching space. I'm going to be posting a lot of content it's just, you know, not bullshitting people, but it's going to be calling a spade and addressing what people wrestle with, and including myself, and share just transparency, but sharing what has worked for me and what hasn't, and suggest and encourage people to try different things, to break through whatever they're wrestling with in their life. Could be with family, fitness, finances, self-limiting beliefs, fears, that sort of thing. So that's where you go to find me. And then my YouTube channel is Shawn Stasiak's World, which needs also some picking up. So I'm on it, Nick. Next time we talk, hopefully it'll be grooving and moving.
I think it will be, Shawn. I'm not worried about it.
And who knows? You never say never. I don't think that's a slogan just that the WWE is famous or known for. I think just in professional wrestling and with AEW, I think that you can really say never, because I just feel like that company, and I think Tony has a mind of possibilities and is more open to different creative ideas. I don't know. You know him probably better than I do.
He's an outside the box thinker. I'm not going to lie. There's a reason I got you on the horn, Dr. Shawn. It's not because I thought that you weren't relevant in this moment,
Well, so let me ask you, what's your thought? Okay. So you're a fan, right? What would you like to see with this whole meat theme phrase?
I think the obvious answer is you got to find a group of ladies, right? And these group of ladies that need a little muscle, that need a little meat, right? Because the women's division always looking for unique kind of archetypes and things like that. I think it could be a unique way to maybe re-look at what you guys had going, and maybe, like you said, put a little different spin on it, elevate it a little bit. Doesn't have to be so one-sided Jerry Springer,
Sure. And like I said to you, Nick, earlier, the Shawn Stasiak comeback story and fulfilling the promise he made to his dad and making history and all that, that's a parallel. What's the word I'm looking for? It's got a lot of reality parallels to it, as far as like a serious tone to it, or a real inspiring, inspirational story with a lot of fire, a lot of drive, a lot of intensity with it. But with a meat character, that's something that would definitely be much more. How can you take that serious?
Okay? It's just crazy to me that you have like these two storylines in your head where you're like, one of them is like, okay, let's all have some fun with meat, but then you have this other, all pun intended, meatier storyline, right? Where there's like a lot more invested into it. And I think it's cool that you can kind of see both sides of that coin, because it does seem like with the right person opportunity, you could see either of those through.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see where this all goes, and over the next few weeks, and perhaps it grows and becomes a movement, and something happens. And look, like I said, I'm not sitting there waiting by my phone to ring by any chance, but look, again, I'm open to all possibilities, and I've got a little bit left in the tank, and I'm in shape, and I don't know. Again, not looking to wrestle, but definitely there might be a couple bumps left in me, but I've definitely got a lot more to give, a lot more bumps to give. So there you go.